Hey, podcast listeners. James here from the Puget Sound Underground podcast. Today's show is with Brian Nelson, the founder of Unleashed at Stadium Bowl. It's a fundraiser where people run up and down the stairs at the Stadium Heights High School stadium. It's actually a great podcast. I think you guys are really going to enjoy it. Hope you're having a great day, and please make sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and subscribe on YouTube. Let's get into the show. Here's Brian. Thank you for tuning in to the Puget Sound Underground podcast. We are here today with Brian Nelson from Unleashed at Stadium Bowl, which I know we're going to be diving into what that is. But Brian, how are you today?
I'm well, thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks, James. Yeah.
I'm super excited to have you on the podcast today. I was really intrigued by this thing that you've created. And so before we really dive into some of the other stuff, I'd love to hear about what is Unleashed at Stadium Bowl? When did you guys start? What's it all about? Give me the 10,000-foot view. What is this?
Okay, so what it is it's our primary fundraiser for an animal rescue, Kindred Souls Foundation, that Kelly and I co-founded back in 2004. And we had done dinner auctions and casino nights, and kind of like traditional fundraising things. And I hate them. I hate dinner auction, like. Put on nice clothes, come eat lousy food, and bring your checkbook to buy shit you don't want nor need, right? I mean, and I hated the ask to people to support us. I guess I just didn't feel it was an authentic way to make money. And I'd come back from Afghanistan. I was working in the Army National Guard. I was full-time in the Guard, AGR, and had moved from Camp Murray to Tacoma, downtown Tacoma at the Armory. And Mike May, my bestie, was the recruiter at Stadium, and he's my lifting partner. And so anyways, I come back, and he's like, hey, bro, he was working at the Armory as well. Like, check out these stairs, right? They'll break you off. And, you come back from overseas, and I would say we always said you were like in the 300 club, right? Either you flat bench 300 or you weigh 300, right? People seem to tip one way or the other. And I wasn't weighing 300, right? I was pretty damn fit. And so I looked at those stairs, and I was like, please, right? So I went out and ran them. And they did. They absolutely broke me off. And but when I couldn't walk for a few days, it was like muscle pain, not knee and joint pain. I was like, oh, that'll heal. And at the time, I was assuming battalion command. And so, you kind of think, what's the one or two things that you can focus on to move the ball forward? And I was actually in the bowl because then once I started running them, it's a real short workout, 20, 25 minutes. And I used to close my day with it. Kind of wring out the day's stress. And as I'm walking across the grass, it occurred to me that as an NCO and a company grade, I never knew the boss, right? Like, I knew who he or she was, but I didn't know him, and which meant they didn't know me, other than name, tape, and rank. And I thought, that I'm going to fix, right? And I guess I've always called it, I practiced invasive leadership, right? Like, very personal. I want to get to know my people. And the best way, I think, to get to know them is what I've always called collective suffering, right? My team building formula was, and always has been, collective suffering followed by breaking bread. And so anyways, we started officer PT. And in the reserve component, generally we don't do PT. We just don't have the time, right? So we'll take PT tests, but we don't make the time for PT. And I was like, no, this is going to be a priority. So I brought all my officers down, and we had in our battalion, we had, like, every squad leader could be a captain, a warrant, or an E7. And so it was high officer density. So I had about 35 officers in a battalion. And we'd run the stairs, then play ultimate or soccer, and then we'd go to hobnob and break bread. And so we'd roll into drill at like 10:30. But I'd had my guys for like 4 hours, and we really got to know each other. So it was 2011. It was April of 2011. I was in the bowl again by myself. And if you know it, I started on the visitor side, which there's 12 flights on the visitor side and then 9 on the home side. I'd gone all the way around the bowl, and I was standing up on the home side looking out at the historic museum and the sound, feeling, well, after an exceedingly hard workout, that what I would call master of the universe, like absolute sovereignty, right? Like, I know my power. I'm no effing, victim. But in the same instant, it was this egoless equanimity, right? Like this connection and kind of like, hey, coach, I'll do whatever to play, right? If I got to pass out towels like this, not above or below anybody, just kind of this connected sense. And a couple of thoughts like tumbled right after that. One was, how I feel is by design, right? Like there's a formula. It's not an accident. And two, this is the optimal way for me to show up, right? Like I know my power. I'm no victim, but you want me to sweep? I'll sweep, right? I'm not above or below anybody. I just want to be on the team. And this is probably, I guess, the Army in me. It was like, how can I make other people feel this way? And I said it out loud. I was just looking. I said, we have to race the fucking bull. I mean, and I said it to nobody. I was the only dude in there, right? And so I just was like on fire with this idea. So I come running home and tell Kelly, and we're out walking our dogs over at that property I was telling you about earlier. And I was telling her, honey, we really got to do this. It's this great idea, but they locked the school. So we may have to raise money for the school. And she looks at me, like a madman. She's like, we're not doing anything unless we're raising money for Kindred Souls Foundation, the animal rescue that we had. And I was like, oh, yeah. And so we argue or disagree, like who coined Unleashed? Because it was like, well, if we did it for the animals, we could call it Unleashed at Stadium Bowl. And so this was April of 11, and we decided to do it in August. So I gave myself 11 weeks to put the first race together, which I wouldn't encourage, right? Suffice it to say, right?
It's a short timeline, a little bit.
It was, right. But it was like I needed to finish something, right? Like I had to. I'm a typical good idea fairy, but sometimes the finish, hasn't been there. So we did that the first year in 2011, and it was a success. We had about 120 people show up, and a lot of that was me, right, armoring and people to show up. But since then, so it has grown, and this August 2nd will be our 10th annual Unleashed at Stadium Bowl.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and we've always been profitable. We can't put our animal rescue at risk, right? So we've been very judicious in how we spend our money, but the value that we want to deliver, I don't feel we've ever compromised on that. What's interesting is the first few years I marketed it and kind of framed the race as like this cross-finish suckfest, right? Like, are you tough enough? And it took me about 4 years to recognize that resonated with me and maybe 1% of the population, right? But more importantly, and what unintentionally, I was alienating others, and I didn't get that at first. And as Kelly and I were talking about, like, really, what are we trying to do? What do we experience there? I told Kelly, it was like, well, as we're talking about this, it's like it's an intimate race experience. We line up at the uprights by mile time, and we leave on a 5 to 10 second interval for safety reasons, right? And then we serpentine the bull. But if you could picture that, there's like a 500-person snake running the stairs, and so everybody sees everybody the entire time, and everybody becomes invested in everybody. Everybody's cheering everybody on. And the fastest people, because we go fastest and slowest, they'll finish the race before some people have even started. And they'll get their lickies and chewies, but then what happens is they generally line the track, cheering other people on. Some people of their own accord, go back and run up the stairs, encouraging people they don't know. Like, humanity breaks out, James, right? And so I've thought about this like for a long time, and I've wondered why this event has gripped me to the extent that it has. It's really become the most important thing in my life, and it's just a race, right? So it doesn't make sense to me, or it didn't make sense.
Is it just a race, though? What you're describing to me sounds more like a culture, right? This is something that envelops the people who are involved, and what you described to me in the beginning too didn't sound like a race to me either. That's the vehicle, so to speak. But what you're building a culture, right? Wow. You're building people who are really buying into, every organization has a mission, vision, values, right?
Right.
What do we stand for? What do we see the future looking like? And who are we as an organization? I think even if it's not on paper, or even if it's not on the website or anything else, like through your actions and through what you've built that.
Yeah.
And to see that grow, it shows me that other people relate to it and they're jumping onto it. So yes, it's just a race.
Yeah.
That was a little note that I've been thinking about in my head is this entire time, that since the very beginning of you explaining what this is, I'm like, oh, he's building culture. That makes a lot of sense. And that's why that's interesting to me is it's so hard to do. Even people who, as a small business owner, I don't struggle with it, but culture is not an easy thing to build, right? To get people invested into something. And there are companies who spend their entire company life trying to fine tune and to build that culture. And it sounds like, obviously mastery is 10 years and this is it, right? That's another interesting factor of this whole thing. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, dude,
it's not just a race in my mind,
you,
right?
Well, I guess you touched me. That I haven't thought of it that way, and I guess that wouldn't have been the words that I used, but I think you're absolutely right. As we were, like what are we doing? What do we see, and then what are we really trying to do? We're obviously fiscally raising money. We're raising money for our animal rescue, and we want to eventually fund the operating costs of a no-kill sanctuary or a sanctuary. But kind of the higher order mission, right, was we kind of riffed off my collective suffering followed by breaking bread. And so we're like, what is that in our community? And so we developed this tagline of grit city effort plus shared struggle equals kindred connection. And I've even thought more about this, like unpacking, I guess, my own life is if there were things that I would want to say is like, you matter, right? You belong. Now, but get better, right? Because there's a lot of fucking work to do.
That's right.
And we got to get there, but I need you at your best. We need you at your best. And the best way to do that is we have to demonstrate to ourselves that we're up to the job, right? And so it has, and I've thought like, why do movies like Rocky or Rudy or Creed resonate, right? Rocky lost. He lost. But you don't care as you're jumping out of your chair crying, It's
one of the best movies ever.
Right? And so it's like, what is it that we see? And I think this is what it is, and it's why adversity works, is that you can't be indifferent and cool and go all in, right? You're not the polished teeth, shiny toothed guy, right? It's a snot bubble and spit, but it's what we see is I would think of as like it's a combination of courage, vulnerability, and like authenticity, right? Like, or you could say the divine spark or the soul or the spirit, like that's who I've been looking for, right? That's who I want to know. And when we see that, you can't unsee it. It takes like a sociopathic effort, right, to unsee that. You don't see color, you don't see the body, you just see the person that's there, and you it's primal, right? You can't help but fist bump it, high five it, hug it, love it, right? Like that. It's the hero's journey, right? It is everything that's ever been created. It's the human condition alive, and we need that shit, bro. We do. And if I were to extrapolate that out to, I met with, I've talked with our mayor a couple of times, and I met with her office, I guess it was a week and a half ago, and I'm like, 17,000 people were at the T-Dome a couple weeks ago for Bernie, right? Just picture if there had been a Trump rally at the LeMay Museum, right? I think someone would have been shot. And I don't say that. That's not hyperbole, right? Like, I'm serious. There'd been fisticuffs at least, and you can be wrong all by yourself, right? You can be just completely insane, but you can't be 100% right by yourself, right? We are genetically predisposed to our political ideologies. And there's a reason, right? There's a group selection reason that we need the left and the right. Someone's got to go outside the wire and hunt and defend. Now, is that dude the same dude who's thinking how to equally distribute the spoils? No, it's not. And it couldn't be. He or she couldn't be the effective warrior out there if he's concerned about the orphans. Do you know what I mean? And so we need each other, and we can't get there. We're not going to PowerPoint ourselves there. We're not going to argue ourselves there. We're not going to, because all our defenses come up. What we need to do is see each other. And I think there's so many ways, humanities, right? That music, we can get lost in music, but some people's music is other people's noise, right? Religion, that can be unifying and vary, right? But it's been my experience, I guess, through athletics and the military, is that guaranteed 100% of the time to get to that core person, to maybe momentarily shatter our ego, is through all-out physical effort, bent over, sucking air, mouth breathing, kind of effort, and it's like we're momentarily freed of our own baggage, and we see other people, and so I guess what we're trying to do, and maybe this would be a better, is I'm trying to set the conditions for the culture that I think we should have, right?
First of all, how many steps are in this stadium?
So the route that we run, each flight is 60 steps, except for 2 of them, which are 53. And there's 100 steps into the bowl, right? I don't know if we call that the Widowmaker, right, on the race. And then there's 64, I think, on the visitor side entrance. It's 814 up, 814 down. So we give those little, those little oval stickers that say 13.1 or 26.2. We give 1628, and then we have a 2-lap option of 32.56. So
that sounds like the right conditions to me.
Yes, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you're going to set up conditions for culture, like the 6,000 steps is probably going to get my attention.
Yeah. It's we see vomit every year, right? And I love it, right? I mean, to me, it's like you're pushing, and that's what I want to see, because the other thing I guess we get 150 super athletes, right? But we also see the rest is just the rest of us, and to witness someone see themselves differently as they cross the line, holy shit, James.
People always put a cap on themselves. I was just having this conversation with somebody the other day about the inferred ceiling that people have. And a lot of it is subconscious. A lot of it, they're not even actively like, nope, I can't do that. That's above my ceiling. They're not thinking about that, but they're also, whether it's nature versus nurture, somehow they're capped in their brain capacity to think, oh, I could never achieve that level, even if they see it. They're like, right. Oh, I see that person doing that thing over there. I could never do that because of whatever it is, right. But it's not real. And so I think what I saw when you said that, you're seeing a lot of people that are pushing the limit of their ceiling.
Yeah.
And you already had me at hello on a constant improvement, right?
Yeah.
I'm a very bullish, firm believer in every day we wake up. The only competition in my mind is the one in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's it.
And so yesterday.
I don't care about that super athlete, which props to him, right?
Right.
Congrats on your success.
Right.
But I wake up every day and look in the mirror and I say, all right, how do I improve on what I was yesterday?
Yeah.
And if you wake up every single day with that mentality, it is that constant growth, right? You want to do, and I don't know if you know Paul Akers. We just had him on the podcast, and he's a lean evangelist, I'd call him, and he pays his employees 30 minutes a day or more in some cases to make a 2-second improvement to their process. Huh. And it's a very similar mentality, right. But you're talking about self-improvement where they're talking about process improvement, but your body and who you are is a process. So those are very relatable. But that is what I like about the mentality is that mindset doesn't stop when the race is over, or at least it's not supposed to. Right.
It's so we had this was 2 years ago, I think. We were just starting our awards ceremony, and that we've done it for a decade, but I never grew up saying I wanted to be a race director. Right, this just kind of unfolded. Right, and we've learned a lot and gotten a lot better. But little things like how to do the award ceremony properly, right? We've improved a lot on that. But 2 years ago, we were starting the award ceremony, and just as I'd started, and we probably have about 85% of the folks stick around because we feed everybody breakfast. That's part of the formula, right?
Heck yeah!
And they're hanging around. It's so dang beautiful there, right? I mean, it's just gorgeous. But I looked up, and there was a gal from Dave Morley's he owns Spanaway Fitness, and they were all in their own gear. And this gal was the last finisher, and she was climbing up the last flight of stairs, and her entire team was behind her. And I've got the mic. I'm like, hold on, guys, we're gonna pause the award ceremony, and everybody cheered this woman in, and she came down, and probably another 50 people like walked with her, jogged, to the finish line, and there weren't many dry eyes. Do you know what I mean? It was like, and that woman, she saw herself differently. She one, I don't think she knew what she was getting into, right? Seriously.
6,000 stairs.
Well, 1,600. Okay.
Oh,
yeah. 1,600 or 3256. But it's no joke, right? I mean, it is flat out no joke. And it was like, that's what we're doing, right? I mean, I feel there's many lines of effort or many components to that, but to witness someone else see themselves differently like that, shit, dude, that fuels me for the whole rest of the year. Yeah,
that's it right there. And that is an amazing thing. And I think I've seen that in other organizations too, and I've talked to other people where it's like, if I can reach one person, I'm done. Like, and not that they're done, but it's like, that's the mission is we want to show people that there's put on these new glasses and see life through a different lens. And like you said, you can't unsee, you can't go back. And I love those environments because you're getting elevated to a different level, right?
Yeah.
It's like after seeing a 3D movie, none of the other movies look the same after that, right? You've seen it through a different perspective, and you almost don't want to take those glasses off, right?
Yeah. This gal, Jackie, this was years ago, probably 5 or 6 years ago. Well, she was a soldier in my organization, and she, after we did the race, she came up to me and she's like, Brian, sir, this was different. I've done 30, 40 races. And then she kind of pauses and she's like trying to look for the right words. She goes, we were all on one team today. And I thought, God, man, like that's it. Like, you remember that show, The Killing on Netflix? Yeah. In one of the later episodes, I can't remember the guy's name, but he says they're talking about God, but he was like, 33 flavors, but it all comes from milk. And I wish that, like, that's how I guess I see us. Like, man, there's infinite flavors, but we all come from the 4 same letters, right? In our DNA. It's like, can we get back to the milk? Let's start there. And then maybe we can solve some problems instead of whether or not plastic straws or plastic bags. We get homeless problems. We don't know what to do with the 4th largest port in the nation, right? We can't agree on the big things, and we're knocking down trivial kind of issues because we can't see each other and we don't respect each other. We're, like you're saying, we're blinded by our own ideologies, our own beliefs, our own backgrounds, and we need to open those because we all come from milk, right? I mean, there's a lot more in common with us, and that is really, that's what's gonna, that level of connection, right? That sense of connecting with another person, that's what keeps us alive during our dark moments. It is, that's what matters. And it's not just with our intimate relationships, right? We need to connect with a broader sense. We don't have the intimate 150 tribe, that 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, where, 800,000 people live in Pierce County, right? We're a lot bigger than that, but we can still find those levels of connection, and it feeds our soul. I mean, it really does. It assuages the angst that many of us carry all the time, and you leave elevated. And maybe I was thinking about this too. We do this thing called a community partner. Where we say, hey, Puget Sound Underground, you get 10 people to register, then we brand you like a sponsor, and we give you a 10x10 booth space and tag you on Facebook and this marketing type stuff. And then we give every participant a passport, and we ask them to go by and get a stamp, right? Like, and then we bribe them. We use the Rain Football Club.
Oh, nice.
Offers, yeah, they give last year, and they will again this year, gives like 2 4-pack season tickets. We raffle those off.
Nice.
But it's I think of our community as we've got great islands of excellence, right? Like our YMCAs, our Boys and Girls Club, our infinite great things. Operation Red Dot, right? But an island means there's a lot of deep blue water in between, and people can drown in that blue water. So the other thing I guess I'm trying to do is like connect our organizations so that we can create a web, and no one falls off, right? No one drowns, and so what I see, you know, my vision is all of our other organizations creating relationships with other organizations, and if it's not you, hey, it's not, you know, I can't help you, but you know, over here, and we make laterals, and we just get stronger that way. So it might seem, I guess I'll tell you my big hippie vision, right? It might seem a little unrealistic, but I do think we can make a difference, man. I think we can, at least here, right? We can drop the long knives and band our arms together and see each other, and then have difficult conversations that are filled with respect and solve problems. And that friction, right? It's like and I think the military's command team is such a great model. You've got the O and the E, and you know, the O might say mission first, men always, and the first sergeant major would be like, men always, mission first. And in that friction, right, and the best command relationships I've ever had is sometimes we've gone to the mat, you know, I mean, to the mat, but everything is better, because if I'm thinking mission first, men always, I'm forgetting something. And so I need the sergeant major to remind me, men always, mission first. And I'll say, yeah, but mission, you know, and we'll fight. But in that healthy friction, everything's covered. And I guess that's what I want, right? Is some healthy friction created by authentic connections.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Do you have a projection for how many people you think will be there this year?
I always get a little nervous to say this, but we're actually probably going to we're thinking of putting a cap at 1,000, just to make sure that we execute as well as we do. And I think we can. We've come close to 500, last year we did the Army National Guard sponsored the Minuteman Invitational. So we reached out to 5 high schools and gave them 10 free registrations, and then the students participated, but we scored them like a cross country. So you compete individually, but then we take the top 5 finishers of each school, and then, you know, the lowest time wins. That was a true success. The kids loved it, coaches loved it, Guard loved it. So we're going to push in and make that bigger. There's all indications that I might have some sponsors that can make it easy button for the soldiers, both at JBLM and I feel kind of like a responsibility to drag JBLM outside of the wire and put them into Tacoma, and so that it can be seen appropriately. But we're also we've added this fastest pack option this year. So with our community partners, we've said that the community partner that gets the most people, we do an after party for them at like Ryan House or something. And this year we're going to do the fastest pack. So it's going to be, you can either compete on the largest pack or the fastest pack. And I think that, well, there's 2,000 gyms in Washington, 2,000 plus, 95 CrossFit boxes in the Puget Sound, 26 Orange Theory studios. Mm-hmm. I think this idea of a competitive team event should resonate in a way that hasn't before. Even, you know, other events like Spartan or Tough Mudder, you can run as a team, but you're not competing, right? And I think for true cooperation, you got to have a little competition, right? I mean, you gotta have some skin in the game, and you know, steel on steel, right? That makes us better. And so we have indications, people that we've never heard from, that are reaching out to us like, hey, when's registration open? When's this? So we're like, you know, this is exactly what I want, but at the same time, like, oh my God, we better make sure we execute well, right? So we may. So I expect, I guess, to answer that, between 600 up to would be probably no more than 1,000.
It's a lot of people. It's
a
lot of people. And I would imagine that the energy in this Stadium Bowl is probably pretty palpable.
That's a good insight, James. And that is exactly, it's my volunteers are, so our Animal Rescue Kindred Souls Foundation, our volunteers put it together, and I'm the only guy that would run the stairs. They all think I'm insane, right?
Maybe they're right.
Yeah, maybe they are right. But they are so invested. We've seen our volunteers are weepy-eyed with inspiration, right? Like every single year to witness it, because it just feels so electric, alive, inspiring. It's definitely contagious. And so we're trying to get more people just to come out and witness it, because they'll feel it. And I think that even if you don't race, you can sense what we're doing and still get that sense of community, and it's powerful, man. It really is powerful to see guys like, well, it just is. But you're right. It is palpable, tangible. It's a real thing, right? That story of one draft horse can pull 8,000, right? 2 draft horses, can they pull 16? No, it's 24. So what is it? It's that connection. It's a living, real thing. It needs to be watered and nurtured and weeded, right? It's so we could be so much more if we could really connect, and you can't deny it when you feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote that this reminds me of, and I think any kind of competition, or I really like the analogy used with the draft horses, because I think that's so powerful. I believe in this quote so much I put it on my business card. It's on the back. It says, "If we stand together as one, we'll take this world by storm."
Yeah.
And just by itself, it's amazing. But when you really sit down and think about the logistics of what can actually happen, and seeing examples of what happens when people come together, and let's put our brains together, let's put our physical, how many foot-pounds can we get out of pulling this thing?
Right.
It's amazing what can happen. And so I like that mentality of, we're going to come together and we're going to pull all in one direction, right? Imagine playing a tug-of-war if everybody was on one side. Game just got a lot simpler, right?
Right.
We don't even need to think about it. Just pull and we're done, right?
Right.
So what else could that be applied to? Well, here we are applying it to, which I'd love to dive into a little bit about what you guys are pulling for, right? If everybody's on one side pulling for this awesome race, which I think lives on its own, even if it weren't for charity, which I think is admirable. Just on its own, I think the culture of it is very strong, and obviously you've been building over time. But what are you pulling for? Let's dive a little bit into what the nonprofit is. And I heard you mention it just a little bit, and we were talking a little off camera about the sanctuary idea. I'd love to hear just a little bit about where your head's at on that.
Okay, so I'll just quickly kind of summarize. Kelly and I were living in Germany in the early 90s. We're newlyweds, and we had done I read it somewhere. We each did a list of 10 things, 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, 10 year, 15 years of things that we wanted. And, like 1 for me was like TV with remote, right? Like, I mean, we're that young, and,
that's a big deal.
And, and so, initially it's all material type stuff, but then as you move along, it's more aspirational. And both of us had written in 15 years work for ourselves. And it was like, well, I worked in intelligence in the Army. Like, that doesn't translate, right? Yeah, I'm not Snowden, right? I'm not gonna sell that. And Kelly has always been, she's like got an internal, divining rod for animals in need. And I've always loved animals as well. But so we dreamt up this idea of an animal camp, and that's when we thought, okay. We could do like a summer camp, and we'd issue everybody a dog, and so you teach them love's an active verb, right? You got to take care of this animal, and you get these amazing rewards. And it was like, okay, so I need to finish my undergrad, leave the Army, get an MBA, learn to sell, learn to manage money. Kelly, she was in undergrad with psychology, get a master's, maybe a PhD, open a practice, and we thought in 15 years we'd have like enough cred, right, that we could then open this animal camp. And well, as things went along, right, we knocked down a lot of those tasks before, and I had become I'm a YMCA guy, huge Y fan, and I was the board chair of the advisory board for the Lakewood YMCA. And it occurred to me that was actually how I'd scratch that camp itch, right? That maybe a camp isn't it, and maybe it's just an animal rescue. So I took the bylaws, right, and we came home and said, This is like '03, '04. Like, let's just start. We don't know what it is, but let's just start. And so we drug a couple of our neighbors down and created Kindred Souls Foundation, like board member, and here's the bylaws, and we incorporated, and what our mission statement is we provide sanctuary to abandoned and abused dogs and cats of all ages, a holistic approach to their care, and an education on the rewards and responsibilities of animal companionship. So that was like our mission statement, or it is, and so we have started finding, our definition of sanctuary has been essentially finding, forever homes or like supported foster care. And as we have kind of grown, our focus has become more on let me say like the less adoptable animals, right? The ones that are senior animals, medically fragile animals, animals with special needs, and we've kind of honed that to that. That's like our wheelhouse. And so we, instead of being kind of I don't want to say turn and burn, but like a high adoption center, where you need those, like the Humane Society and NOAA and some of these others, we're much more of a supported foster care, right? So we have like a program called Senior Companion Program. So we match up senior folks with senior dogs or cats. We cover the bills, right? We take care of the medical and the food. Everybody lives longer and with more life, right? And we got a case manager that makes sure everyone's okay. And so we've been doing that now for, I guess it's like 15 years. And what we would like to do is, and we've always envisioned some property and like our home bigger, right? Like this, not dog jail, right? Like, or cat jail where they're living in boxes, which doesn't. I mean, how would you feel being adopted if they came into the Pierce County Jail, right? And that's how you were seen, not a real healthy way. So we want to have this kind of this home place, a sanctuary, so some of these animals can live out their lives with dignity and to be loved and cared for, and still continue adoptions if and when that's appropriate, or expand our foster care to much more. So that's it. And I guess why animals? I think I've thought a lot about this as well, and I think a lot of us are hurt, right? A lot of us, like, one, we don't come out of here alive, right? No one gets out alive, but there's a lot of damage that a lot of us have encountered, intentionally and unintentionally. And the beauty of an animal is, and I've seen this, like we see kind of populations in this community that have been maybe historically marginalized, and but the animals are safe, and they provide, it's a fountainhead of love directed right at your soul. And man, that's magical healing right there. It is. Well, I think Delta Society, there's animal assisted therapy, right? There's evidence for this, but there's something about petting a dog or a cat, right? And I mean, I wasn't really a cat guy until I married Kelly, right? And we have a lot, and I love our cats, and so that's, I guess, that is the end state, right? Is what we're trying to do is raise enough money through Unleashed, one, to create an experience for our community, serve our community in this connecting way, but to raise enough money to cover the future operating costs, staff of a sanctuary. And we figured we'd probably need about $500,000 to start it, and probably upwards of $1 million, and that's totally doable, right? So that and then with the sanctuary, I think we could then expand some programs, build something in to serve the veteran community. You think about service dogs, right, and how expensive those are. And PTS, that's real shit, right? That's that is that's no joke. But if we said, I think most everything's on a spectrum. If the service dog is required for those on the right end of the bell curve, maybe just a well-trained companion animal can fit the need for the less severe PTS, right? Or we can help veterans re-find purpose and meaning and connection outside the wire, because I think, a lot of our guys, a lot of our folks, well, myself even, it's kind of like, who am I now? How do I serve? What am I, am I just after money? And all these kind of value things that, and this is all below the surface stuff. Like, it's not like it's calculated. I think it's, you try things and you're uncomfortable. You don't know why this great job that you've got isn't what you thought it would be. And so I think that we want to provide a line of effort or a course of action or an alternative for the veteran community to remind themselves who they are, right? That we're the guys that serve. When we're outward facing, right, and we're thinking of others more, it's really hard. The crazy man, it tames him down. It's when we're alone by ourselves and only thinking of ourselves that the problems start, right? So.
Well, and I think that's a powerful thing for everybody. You think about, and I agree. I think people leaving the military, we talk about a lot of this in a lot of the other nonprofits for vets that I'm a part of as well. When guys leave the military, you do lose the mission, because the guys that I deployed with, they kept on.
Right.
Their mission continued.
Right.
I got off the bus.
Right.
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 And so there's a certain sense of, okay, the bus just took off and I'm at the station. What now?
Right.
Right. And I think that it's very prominent in the military, but I think it really is applicable to a lot of different people out there. And I think you hit a big nail there. A lot of this has to do with ego.
Yeah.
And it's amazing to me. I've read so many research papers on removing ego from a person's personality, and maybe not removing it 100%, but being able to understand when it's present,
right,
and being able to suppress it when it shouldn't be there.
Right.
Within 10 seconds, I can tell if somebody's driving their train with ego, right? And I loathe those people.
Right.
I hate being around them. It gives me just a nasty feeling inside.
Right.
And on the flip side, I can tell somebody who's driving that's selfless.
Yeah. Yeah.
That, not that they don't care about themselves, but they will put somebody else first.
Yeah.
All day long. And animals, of course, being something that's, they can't really, in a lot of ways, can't defend themselves.
Right, they're vulnerable.
They're very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so to take that on and be involved in a project like that, I can see how that would be very beneficial for somebody who's dealt with trauma.
Yeah.
Of any kind. I think that's very positive.
It's something, just an insight I had. So I clean out the litter boxes, right? That's one of my jobs. It's unglamorous, right, to say the least. And there are times when I haven't been very happy about cleaning out the litter boxes, and I remember thinking one day, because I was frustrated and I was tired and kind of like I didn't want to do it, and so I thought about our cats, right? And I like, what do I get from them? Oh my God, they give me so much joy and do the but they can't clean their toilets, right? That's all I'm doing for them. There's other things, but at least I can clean their toilets for them, right? Because man, they're giving me so much. They can't do it themselves. And so, not to say that every time I'm cleaning the litter boxes out that I'm doing cheetah backflips with enthusiasm and joy. I don't mean that at all, right? But I remind myself that when I'm feeling the grump come, right? It's whether I didn't sleep well, whatever it is. I'm like, I'm cleaning out their toilets because I don't like to go in a dirty latrine, right? I mean, nobody does. And so it is. That might be one way of kind of saying what you're saying. If it's like maybe lowering the ego, like lowering the armor just a bit to, not so much that we're defenseless and we can be manipulated, but we're open.
Perspective is a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And that's the story you just told about the litter boxes. That's what that tells me is, okay, let's think about this. Let's zoom out just a little to see the bigger picture here.
Right.
And it's like, oh, okay, I see why I'm doing this now. It now holds more purpose than just doing something that has to be done. That's a chore that has to be done.
Right.
But that's a powerful thing to be able to see something from a different perspective.
Yeah.
To kind of zoom out of a situation, I think can help a lot. And I think that applies to life in general.
Yeah.
You know,
And I think in many ways too, as you say that, and I was thinking about kind of like been thinking about the race. Like prepping, like what do I want to get across here? When I initially started this thing, it was like this real aggressive, right, hard-nosed, how tough are you, competitive, but I'm not the man I was when I started, right? And and I think the moment I began to recognize, wait a minute, it's more than just raising money, and it's not trying to find the best, I don't want 10,000 of the world's most elite athletes. Like, they're okay in many ways, but we need to serve our community in this this unfolding that we see, this investment in others that's organic, right? Like, my ego wants to take credit for it, right? But it's not. It's the stadium. It's so beautiful, iconic. It's the people. It's just who we are. When I was talking with the mayor's office last week, it's like, hey, we can wait for Cascadia Subduction Zone and the zombie apocalypse to maybe come together, right? Like, you remember how we felt on September the 12th.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we could wait for that, or maybe we could practice that muscle. We could train that muscle now, right? So when that happens, we're already there, right? And it really, I can't believe it still astounds me to see how much I believe in this and how much this actually means to me, because it is, I'm concerned, right? I guess I'm concerned. I'm not the oldest. Well, I'm 50, which holy shit, I'm 50, right?
Congrats for making it this far.
But I've never felt the bifurcation or maybe the sense of tribalism and that seems to be just like the status quo right now. And I can, don't misunderstand me. All I have to do is flip on a particular type of radio, and I can be in that hard, fighting position.
It's not something that goes away.
No,
it gets put on the back burner sometimes, but it's there.
Yeah, it's there, and I don't like that, Brian, at all. He doesn't help at all. It's like I was saying, like, you can be wrong all by yourself, right? But to be really right, we need other people's perspectives. And I used to, even running my staff, and I would always say, hey, we need a hippie at the table, And I meant that in, like, we need somebody who's not all given the drinking duck, because we will drive this organization off a cliff blindly with enthusiasm, right? Thinking we're solely right if we don't have somebody poking the holes in what we're thinking and considering what we're not thinking about. One of the best examples, I remember I was putting a training plan together for a weekend, and it was pretty ambitious, right? Like anybody wanting to do a lot. And my S1 NCOIC comes in, and she says, hey, sir. And she always brought up stuff I didn't want to hear, right? Always poking holes. And like to the point where I'd be like under my desk, like squeezing, like, listen, Brian, listen. She hasn't been heard, so let her speak. And she reminded me that, hey, sir, if we do this, we have 3 single parents in our headquarters company that, one, they're not going to be able to get their kid to childcare, or they're going to spend so much that their drill paycheck will go all towards. And it was like getting a bucket of cold water. Like, oh my God, I would have hurt the people I was trying to lead, right? The ones I was trying to help, I would have hurt them. And I wouldn't have seen, to this day, I probably wouldn't see that. It's just not how I'm built. That's not where my strengths lie. And so I don't think, like, equality and justice, those aren't, that's not top of mind for me. So I need somebody else to remind me that those matter, Brian. Those people matter. And it's kind of like back to that friction thing, right? Like, oh. So we adjusted the plan to make sure that we didn't hurt the people I was trying to serve and trying to lead. So yeah, it's we kind of got to get out of our own heads. And like I said, the easiest way there is all out physical effort. I mean, it works every single time it's tried, right? I mean, it's almost guaranteed. Double days in August are more about building the team than they are fitness, right? I think, what was that football movie with, what's his name? High school football coach, black dude. God, I'm such terrible with names. But he takes the football team off, and they go off to like the Toolies for a couple of weeks. And it was this black and white racism. Replacements? Is that? No, not replacements. But anyways, they fought through it, and they came out. They came out as a team. It's like, it works. Adversity works, and we better. I hope. I think it's a smarter course of action to willfully enter into adversity together than to have it slung on us from planes hitting into buildings or an earthquake that's going to have a 9.9 Richter scale, right? That's not going to be a good day.
That's a really interesting thing to talk about, though, because, I mean, let's ask 10 people. Do you want adversity in your life? They're going to say no.
No, of course
right?
not. Right.
10 out of 10 are going to say no,
yeah.
right? But when you look at the people who've lived through adversity and look back on it, they go, well, that's what made me who I am today.
Yeah.
That's a powerful proposition to seek it out. But you're right. I really do think you're right. It's those who are, and this is a mindset thing.
Yeah.
Some people look at adversity and they shy away from it.
Right.
Even just the potential of it. They're like, ooh, I'm not going left because left could be dangerous.
Right.
But there are some people who have that mindset that say, look, if adversity comes, I'm going to figure it out.
Right.
Probably going to improve myself as a person because of it. And that's what I like about the whole concept here is you are forcing adversity.
Yeah.
Whether they wanted, well, I mean, obviously they signed up for it in some context, but
right. They may not know exactly, right, to the degree that 60 steps built, what is it? I think it's 115 years old, like way before OSHA, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way. There's no handrails and not a 6-inch rise with a meter long run. Those steps are steep. So I think most people are pretty surprised. But you're right. It shocks us a bit, and then you find yourself, right. You find there's a lot more in you than you ever knew, and those are powerful messages to deliver to people, right. It's you don't quit. I used to say we're practicing the I don't quit muscle, right? That muscle has to be exercised every day. I don't quit on my job. I don't quit on my family. I don't quit on, I don't quit on myself. I don't quit. And, but if you haven't practiced it, if that's a weak muscle, you may. And that's not what we need, man. It's not. We need people living up to themselves. And we can have a different place here.
Well, and I'm sure that's why you have people coming back, right? I'm sure
so.
you're getting new people all the time, but that's what it is you're not getting a message across. They're feeling it.
Yeah.
They're walking away. Well, wouldn't even need to say anything. They're experiencing that message.
Yeah.
For themselves.
It's
right?
like the implicit learning as opposed to explicit. Yeah, it's and it is it's I can't wait, dude. I mean, seriously,
super cool.
if I could do it once a quarter, I would, because it just feeds my soul to see, great music and like everybody pushing themselves. It's like seeing 500 Rocky Balboas, and it's like in their own way, right? They're drinking the raw eggs and hitting the whatever it is, right? That they're doing that, and it's like, God, man, that's mankind. That's who we are, and it's beautiful. Like when you see that, it's shit. I can get kind of weepy eyed about it because it really it moves me profoundly, and they're real, authentic, genuine smiles. Like you've done something that matters. That's you see yourself differently. You see what you're capable of in at least one capacity, and maybe that does translate to, well, I can be more powerful here. There's more to me in every way than I thought previously, and man, it's a great thing.
It's incredible. So definitely count us in
Awesome.
to come
Yeah,
check
yeah,
it out.
yeah,
We'll bring our camera crew out there, and we'll I don't know if we'll, I might run a couple of stairs for you, but this definitely does sound like a really cool event, and it's going to be very interesting to see, especially as I think you're starting to hit that exponential curve where I think people are really going to start to get involved with what it is. Like now, I think people have a good idea of the organizational what it is,
right?
But now it's about they heard from a friend or they saw a story about, hey, this is real and this should be worth checking out. So before we end, let's talk a little bit about the logistics. So when is the race?
The race is Sunday, August 2nd.
Okay, so this is coming up around the corner here.
Yeah. We open registration 1 May.
Okay,
so,
1 May. Okay, so we've got registration coming up. It's in Tacoma. You're gonna probably cap it at 1,000 people, so definitely be in the queue for May.
Right.
Where do people go to find information about the race and the application, all that kind of stuff?
Just search engine Unleashed at Stadium Bowl. I mean, it's literally unleashedstatstadiumbowl.org is the website. You could find it. Kindred Souls Foundation. We have a link to it as well. We got a Facebook page. I think it's Unleashed. I'm not sure what exactly it is, but and actually Facebook's a pretty good. You get a pretty good feel, maybe even a better feel than our website of what the experience is. And then from the website, there's a register tab, right? And that'll just take you to our registration thing. And we have, you can, run individual. Oh, the other thing we're doing this year, it's the first year, because we've always made our appeal to kind of like the athletic community. More than the animal community, but we're reaching out to our animal community this year and saying, hey, if this isn't what you want to do, like this isn't your idea of fun, you can sponsor a proxy bib. And so we're making buttons for people to run in either an honor or memory of their pet or an animal that's in our foundation, and so they'll wear that pin as they run the stairs. And so we're trying to bring our Kindred Souls community back into the race in a way that we haven't deliberately marketed in the past. So I think that'll help. And then what we should have is kind of an ability for some folks to get a free bib. So it's an affordable race. $15 for youth, $35 for a first responder veteran, and $45 for adult. You get a T-shirt. You get one of those little oval stickers I was telling you about. It's either 1628 or 3256. And we feed you chow. We feed you breakfast. And it's about a 2-hour experience, and you will see yourself differently, and hopefully make some good friends. So
that's really cool.
Thanks.
Well, thank you very much for coming to talk about the race today and the nonprofit. I'm really pumped about everything that you've got going on, and I'm excited to be able to be a soapbox for you to kind of stand up and tell other people about it.
Thanks,
hopefully some people reach out to you. I'm sure you're always looking for volunteers and people to get involved.
We are.
All right, good. So
you can find, there's a tab for volunteers.
Yep.
And we've got kind of roles that you would we train it. We take it dead seriously, right? So we train, we rehearse, I take it seriously like going to war.
Yeah.
Because we execute very well. It's a very well executed experience, and and so we expect that of our volunteers as well. Like everyone's got to be at their best. So, and James, just thanks, dude. Thanks for this, and thanks for what you're doing. It's a, we need people to step out and take the blows, right? Because this shit's not easy, man. Standing up out on your own is not easy, and it's scary as shit. And there's been plenty of times I've wanted to just wet my pants and suck my thumb, and but you're giving other people permission, and you're showing a path to do that, and that matters. It matters a lot more than maybe you think. So I just want to throw it back to you, like, thanks, dude. I'm impressed with what you're doing, and I don't know about you, but the Army brought me up here, so I'm a Californian, right? That came up here in this place. I love it. This is home. I'm an absolute Tacoma-phile. Pure, Puget Sound. I love this place. The 253 is it.
Yep.
The 206 and 425. Whatever, right? Go ahead.
Right.
Maybe we'll drag some of them down
Sure.
to Grit City and show them how to live, right?
There you go.
And so I'm just impressed with what you're doing, and I've got a lot of admiration for you.
I super appreciate that, man. We're going to keep it rolling. There are so many other people just like you and some of our other guests that just need to be heard. They just need to be seen. People need to know that there's real stuff going on, right?
Yeah.
And there really is. So
Yeah.
stay tuned for the next episode of the Puget Sound Underground podcast. We will see you next time. Brian, thank you so much for coming by.
Thanks, bro. I
All right.
appreciate it.